let's go to the second out. The Atlanta Braves. They're in a bit of trouble here, I think, because look, they're 6-10 in their last 16. You sent this text. I'm basing it off the text that you sent me just before. This was against the Nationals, 7 games against the Nationals, 3 against the Pirates, 3 against the Red Sox, 3 against the A's, and they go 6-10 in that stretch. Like, they're not playing the Phillies, the Yankees, the Dodgers. Like, they're not playing those teams in this stretch, and that's why they're struggling. They're playing pretty, average to below average ball clubs, and this is a troubling stretch for them. So what were you thinking here as far as the Braves? Is there legitimate concern, or are we kind of getting to a point where, like, okay, these bad stretches actually mean something now?
So, like, there's not like an alarm blaring for me with the Braves, in the sense that the roster remains strong enough that, like, this is a playoff team. Yes. I am less sure that this is a division winner, partially just because the Phillies have been really damn good. But I am sure that, like, I do feel confident this is a playoff team. But, like, let's think about it, though, right? Now you're sitting at 35-28. You're only 7 games over 500. Spencer Strider, who some think is the best pitcher in baseball, is out for the year. Ronald Acuna, who's a top 5 offensive threat in baseball over the last few years. He hadn't been that this year, but he's out for the year.
Yeah.
You look up and down that lineup. Austin Riley's hitting 230. That ain't Austin Riley. You know what I mean? Like, Adam Duvall seems to have finally hit a wall at age 35. He's hitting 180. Arcia is not the offensive threat that he's been the last couple of years for them with that late career renaissance. Michael Harris is batting under 250. Michael Harris, like, with his, like, he's a guy that needs to hit for some average. Like, to be they want him to be. Obviously Sean Murphy just came back, but the catcher position has not been what they wanted it to be. Darno's filled in okay. It's just Marcell Ozuna's been kind of the one, like, big bright spot for that offense, but otherwise, like, this team's just kind of cooled off. And some of these guys are aging a little bit. Some of them are maybe, like, coming down off that post hype from last year, looking at Michael Harris. Mm-hmm. And you start to wonder, like, man, this rotation's kind of thin right now. This lineup's not great right now.
Yeah.
Like, as in this current moment, I'm not sure how much better the Braves are than, like, the Cubs or the Brewers.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that they won't be some kind of a behemoth by October, right? We know that Alex Anthopoulos is going to do things at the deadline to make this team better. We know that this team will be good enough to be in a position for that to be worth doing. Mm-hmm. So I think by the time we get to the postseason, this is going to be an intimidating team.
Right.
But right now, they're kind of not.
No, I wouldn't say so. That's kind of like, I'm ready to say right now that unless something drastic changes, like, I have no doubt right now that the Phillies are just a better baseball team. Like, they are. Like, the Phillies they're 9 games up in first place. I don't think anybody expected that, right? No. And like, if you would have asked preseason what would have happened, like, if anything, they would have said, okay, the Braves are going to have a 9 game up on the Phillies, not the other way around. Like, if anything. But the Phillies look like they're one of the, 2 or 3 or 4 best teams in all of baseball right now. And I agree with what you said, is that, like, the Braves are not that much better at the moment than the Brewers. Like that's the company that they're keeping right now. Now, the National League as a whole is not all that strong this year. There are a lot of teams that are under 500 in the National League, right? So I think we expected, at least early on, that this was going to be a little bit better. Like, every team in the National League West except for the Dodgers is under 500. Like, I don't think we really expected that. We expected the Padres to be a little better than they are, the Diamondbacks to be a little better than they are, the Giants to be a little better than they are. And again, we're kind of looking at, even the Cubs, who you and I both like, are 32 and 34. Like they're kind of mid. You know what I mean? So, like, the Braves are still in a position where, like, yes, they're absolutely a playoff team in my mind. I don't think that you can imagine a world where they're not a playoff team. And especially with Alex Anthopoulos as their GM, that guy's always moving. He's always doing something. He's so committed to making his team better. But how much better can you make them, right? Their farm system is bled completely dry. They don't have a good farm anymore because all their farm guys are now major league guys, right? They literally grew through the farm system.
And they paid them all.
Right, exactly. Their entire team is guys that they, brought up, right? With the exception of like Olsen and Murphy. Like outside of those guys are all internal guys. Their farm system sucks now. Like you can't get a premier starter anymore. You can't get I don't know that you have enough to get like that much of an impact bat in this lineup with what you currently have. I just don't know that you do. Like they just might be in a position where they're stuck and they're hoping for like a Diamondbacks run. Like that might be what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think
at least this season, yeah.
I think it's like I think Braves fans are probably a little bit looking at this year as kind of a lost year already, in a way.
Probably,
right?
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean they can't win a World Series or go on a playoff run or whatever. But
right.
when you lose both Strider and Acuna for the whole season, it's hard to look at things the same way.
Yes.
And I've been on
World Series without Acuna before. Why can't they do it again?
And we talked about that last week, right? We talked about like they're definitely going to go trade for outfielders and try to make up for that production, and they're good at doing that. But the problem is that like what worked in 2021 worked because everything came together right at that time.
Yeah, right.
Like that doesn't mean everything is going to come together the right way again, right? And we're kind of seeing that. Like they went out this offseason, they bring back Adam Duvall, and he's been awful. Well, he's 35 years old. Like eventually guys run out of gas, right? It's like it's like the Yankees with Rizzo. It's like, look, eventually these guys run out of gas. It's the reason the Dodgers cut bait with Justin Turner when they did. Granted, Justin Turner has still been pretty productive. But even if Justin Turner was hitting 330 in Toronto this year, I'd still be sitting here like, you know what though? The Dodgers cut bait with a guy in his mid to upper 30s. Sometimes you have to make that choice.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm not saying that the Braves have made some kind of mistake in roster construction. Like they've been really unlucky with injuries, right? That's not what I'm trying to say. But it's tough, right? Like you can't necessarily go get Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, and whoever else they got in 2021 and expect them to all and Eddie Rosario and expect them to all go God mode in October again. 2021 was special for them for that reason. And so I think like I'll put it this way: if we think of baseball teams in terms of tiers, like there's a clear World Series caliber tier right now that includes the Phillies, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Dodgers. I think Guardians fans are going to want to be in that tier because they have a good record. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, like we've got this group of teams that I think can rightfully call themselves elite. And I think the Braves at the moment have fallen out of that tier. And they're in that second tier of teams that like the Brewers,
the Rangers, the Mariners, like they're in that
the Royals,
class.
the Twins, right? Where it's like these are contenders. These are teams that have a good chance of making the playoffs. You wouldn't be shocked to see them make noise. But like you're not really looking at these teams as like World Series favorites. And that's a new thing in Atlanta.
No, it is. And that's the thing is like what's interesting about what's going on there is that, and again, you bring up a lot of good points, is that the Braves are not just really dealing with injuries. They're dealing with injuries and a lot of bad years. Like they're like, not only are they like, even before he got hurt, right? Like even Acuna was kind of playing like shit, like overall, they haven't really, been like, not everything has clicked for them. You know what I mean? So I agree. I think some Braves fans are looking at this like this is a frustrating year for Braves fans, right? Because we kind of looked at them. I mean, what was even? I have to look, right? I'm going to bring up an old graphic. Ready? Because they're all right here. I'm going to bring up an old graphic for this. The Braves were projected at 101 and 61. I don't think they touched that. They're not even like. I don't know that they're going to come within 10 games of that. Like I don't know that they win 91 games.
I think 91 is about where I'd set the line right now in
Yeah.
terms of expectations for them, and that's a
Yeah.
big step back.
No, it
Uh,
is.
it's a little bit like the 2018 Dodgers were for me, where it was like, and that team ended up making the World Series, but like that team all year, you were just like, man, like everybody's cold. And
Yeah.
you ended up they ended up having to play a game 163 against the Rockies, and it was just a weird year, man. Like
Yeah.
uh, it's kind of like that, where it's just a team that like it's just not clicking right now.
Yeah.
And it could change. Like maybe they go get Bo Bichette, right? And like, or like who knows? I mean, maybe there are going to be impact names out there at the deadline, and maybe they go get one of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
you never know. But yeah, it's just I just can't get over the fact that like going 6-10 over 16 games is not a huge deal, but
Yeah.
doing it against Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston, Oakland, and Washington is concerning. Like those are not good ball clubs. Like
No,
none
they're
of
not.
those teams are good ball clubs.
Right.
And I want to touch on two of them. The Braves' run differential this year is only plus 31. Like it's not like they've been really unlucky in losing one-run games. Their run differential is the same as Boston.
Yeah.
Their run differential is half of Milwaukee. Their run differential is less than half of Kansas City. Like they just haven't been that good. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, it is very, very underwhelming with what they've shown this year. So we'll see where they go. As far as where the rest of the season is, listen, one of one of your buddies in Survivor Pool just got knocked out because they lost the series to the Nationals. And I was kind of taking a jab at the guy just for fun, just being like, listen, everybody knows that you don't take the Braves when they play the Nationals. Come on, use your head.
I mean, they've lost 6 of their last 7 to Washington, so you're not wrong.
I was totally just saying that in jest. Yeah. I had no stats to back it up. I was just kind of jawing at him. But